if I could do it, you could do it, because I come from a restaurant background, right? So like as a guy, some random guy with working in fast food, working as a restaurant person, going into IT is like super random. Anyone could do it, right? So it's just that's why I started my YouTube channel. Being in help desk or being in IT support, that is a stepping stone for anyone as I watches this video. Like you're gonna start out in help desk, and I'll be honest with you, it depends what company you work for. You may like it, you may not like it.
Kevin Apollinario, also known as KevTech IT support. Kevin has a number of years working in IT support and then recently moving into cybersecurity. Kevin has made a massive name for himself educating IT techies on his YouTube channel. He has almost 90,000 subscribers at the moment, and it's only growing. I've been following him for a while and have followed his journey in tech, and have also learned a lot from watching his videos online. He has a massive following on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And today he's joining us for another incredible episode. In this episode, you will learn about the role of an IT support technician or a help desk technician. You will gain key advice for aspiring professionals in tech, whether it's IT support or cybersecurity. You will hear about Kevin's incredible journey and an interesting story from his career. This was an incredible conversation, but before we get into it, I have to ask what I always do. Please like and subscribe to the channel to help us get more amazing guests like Kevin onto the show. Let's get right into this episode. Really, in this episode, we want to take the opportunity to get to know you and understand your story, because you have a truly incredible story. So if you could walk us through your journey of getting into tech and talk about the key moments that help you to get to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. I have a restaurant background, so I did about 12 years in a restaurant. I did 4 years in the NYPD volunteer, so I worked for the NYPD, and then I wanted to transition over to IT. I was a big gaming head, so I played a lot of PC console games as well. So I played Counter-Strike Source, and I remember one of the guys that I played with, he was a veteran. So the veterans were super cool with me. The veterans told me about the CompTIA A+, and that's how I learned about certifications, because they were telling me, you could get a certification and you could go into IT. And when he said A+, I thought it was like a grade. He's like, no, it's a certification. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I remember going to a school and I did technical training in there, and then that's where I got my A+. I learned about hardware, software, networking, what's a mouse, what's a keyboard, North Bridge, South Bridge, what's a CMOS battery, what's the difference between RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 10. All those fundamental knowledge or information, I learned it from being at a school. I remember my teacher was teaching me like the fundamentals, teaching me a little bit about computers, and he really liked my personality, and they ended up calling one of the hiring managers that was hiring for the Department of Education. And he interviewed me the following day, like literally interviewed me. He said, you want to do an interview with him? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I interviewed with the hiring manager. And the only reason why he hired me was because of my personality. Nothing to do with IT skills, more about my personality. He liked the way that I'm able to like have empathy for customers. And he liked my background and coming from a restaurant background, fast food. He said, oh yeah, I think you should be able to handle the customers if you have that fast food background experience. You should be fine. That's literally how I got started in IT. I slowly moved like little by little to different jobs. Like I was a Mac repair guy working for like a retail Apple store. And I did Apple repairs. I did MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros. I did iPhone repair while being in the school. When I was in the school for a bit, for like over a year. Then I transferred over to doing Macintosh repair. While being in the school, I got my ACMT, my Apple Certified Macintosh Technician certification. And I got experience with Mac machines because of that. And then I transferred over to a retail store that does Mac repair. I did that for a bit. And then I wanted to go into a different job. So I ended up going to an MSP company.
I've actually worked at MSP as well. And one of the things that I understood very quickly is that your role may be one thing at this MSP, but you're doing so many other things and you're involved in so many other things, which was pretty cool. And just on your story and what you've said so far, I know you've been in tech for so long that it's such a long story and there's so many different areas that you've worked.
Yeah.
Some things that stood out so far from your story is that one, you went from the restaurant business, correct me if I'm wrong, the restaurant business to being a police officer to working in tech. And so what was it
That is,
about your previous roles that made you want to move into the tech industry? What was it about IT and tech that interested you and made you want to make that jump?
yeah, I accidentally fell into IT, but
Mm,
with me is like I was always, this is super random. I was always good with like breaking and fixing stuff. So like I would be very curious. Like I remember one time, I'll tell you a quick story. One time I didn't have the money to buy a PlayStation 2. So I didn't have the money to buy PlayStation 2, and funny enough, me and my brother found the PlayStation 2 on the street, and actually we fixed it and we got it to work. And I'm like, oh shoot, this is working now. And we ended up playing with the PlayStation 2. So someone threw out their PlayStation 2 because it was like they thought it was garbage, and it wasn't. We actually opened it up and fixed it. So I always
wow.
had like a curiosity for like fixing stuff, and not just that. Like even when I had I remember when I had my first phone. One of my first phones was a Psychic 3, and I would open it up and I was just curious about the phone. I'm like, how does it do that? I was just curious. And then so like for me it was like, oh, I was always curious about certain things, and like I accidentally fell into it because my mom and dad were like, I think you're good, I think you should do computers. You seem like you're good with that
Mm,
stuff. You seem like you're like good with like tinkering and messing with stuff. So I remember like I was working at a restaurant, and then they had layoffs, so I had layoffs in the restaurant, and they asked me, do you want to go to a school and study the A plus? Do you want to collect unemployment, or do you want to go back to being in a restaurant? And I remember is I had the opportunity to go back in restaurant, and I said no. I just want to study. I want to study. I want to actually go into studying and trying to get a career in IT, because
mm,
restaurant is fine, and I was doing really well. I actually was getting paid more working in restaurant than working IT when I
wow.
first started, but I took a chance. I literally took a chance. All right, let me get into IT and see what happens. I ended up falling into IT. When I did computer repair, I really liked that. It's like super weird, but like I like
Mm,
computer repair. I was always curious about memory. I was curious about graphics cards. When I worked at a financial firm,
mm,
where I worked at a Blackstone Group, I worked at a financial firm, and I upgraded these guys to like 128 gigs of RAM, because these guys have 6 monitors, and they have
yeah.
3 monitors on the top, 3 monitors on the bottom, and they're trading and everything. So like me, I always been curious about hardware. So hopefully that answers your question. It's just curiosity.
Yeah. Curiosity. And I think
Yeah.
that is a key trait for someone working in tech, being curious and really wanting to look deeper into what you're doing, understand what you're doing. Super interesting that you've gone through, working on hardware, working with Macs, working in IT support, working. It seems like there's such a range of stuff that you've worked on for your career. And if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been in tech in
Oh
years?
man, I've been in IT for a decade now, over 10
Wow.
years. So
Incredible. And through those 10 years, what are the areas of tech that you've worked in that you'd say you've worked in? Obviously, there's IT support that you'd say, and in what areas would you say you've worked?
yeah, so a lot of my background experience is IT support and system admin. The majority of it, like 6 7 years of it, I have like 6 7 years in financial support. Like I'm talking about like hedge fund, like the
Mm,
like working C-level executive support, where like the executives, they like rush you because oh, their stuff has to work because they're trading, and the executives are like high priority. Where I work with like the admin assistant. The majority of the executives I work with the admin assistant, because sometimes their computer's not working, they can't trade.
mm,
They are doing a video call and the video call doesn't work. Their camera doesn't work, their mic doesn't work, and
yep.
just like little tiny things like that. It's just like, oh, why is this not working, Kevin? I remember working for a Japanese company, and I worked for the CEO, and he would just take me everywhere with him. Even when he would travel,
Mm,
like I would go everywhere with him because the CEO is very like picky. with who his help desk guy is or IT support guy is. So I would handle all his inquiries, all his issues, and then the that company, they had two buildings. They had a building in Texas, and then they had a building in New York, because I'm from New York, and the building in New York is all like executive C-level folks, where their service level agreement, the SLA, is like less than 15 minutes. Everything has to work.
Mm.
Very fast paced, and it's like there's no opportunity to see, like, to make excuses, or there's no opportunity to say, "Oh, I don't know why that's not working." It's just
Yeah.
you have to kind of like fix it. So I did executive support for a really long time, and financial support for a really long time before going into cybersecurity. So I
Right.
did I did all that customer service, all that I guess that background that I have from being in restaurant. When I
Mm.
got into IT and I got into customer service, it wasn't that bad. I'll be honest with you. It was just I rather do that than work in restaurants. So it's not as bad as people think it is. It's just like,
Right.
if you have the right attitude, the right personality, and also if you like reassure the customer that everything's going to be okay, they're not gonna get mad at you. You just gotta know how to talk to the
Mm.
customer. And also the important thing about that too is when you're working with executives or C-level folks, just because they're not tech savvy doesn't mean it gives you the opportunity to make them feel dumb or silly or stupid. Like, you have to be
Right.
super non-technical with those executives, and then some of them don't even care how you fix it. They just care if it works. That's literally all they care about. So you got to be
Yep.
super non-technical, and also be able to like communicate with them and just keep them updated to everything. So it's just, those things are important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense, and I'm glad you bring that up. The about working in IT support and how people sort of look at IT support and say, this is difficult, or I wouldn't like to do this. I haven't specifically worked in an IT support role as an IT support engineer, but many aspects of my role, especially working at an MSP in the early stages, I've had loads of IT support kind of tasks and things that I'd have to do. So I've experienced IT support, and I wanted to talk with you about this kind of the outlook and how certain people do look at this role of IT support. I think a lot of the time people want to get into tech, and the first role they're going for is IT support. It's the role that people are able to get into quite easily. But a lot of the time, well, it's not easy to get a job, but IT support is one of those roles that if you learn the hard way, if you learn how to, do the customer service, you can get into that role without, lots of, any degree or anything like that. And so people definitely target that as a first role. But a lot of the time people look at IT support as the entrance, the stepping stone. And people online say, don't get stuck in IT support. Don't stay here. Move on to other things. Use this as your 1 or 2 years of experience to get into something else. What are your thoughts on that? And do you believe that IT support is that stepping stone? What do you feel?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Like, being in help desk or being in IT support, that is a stepping stone for anyone as I watches this video. Like, you're going to start out in help desk, and I'll be honest with you, it depends what company you work for. You may like it, you may not like it.
Mm.
With certain companies you work at, that's why it's important that when you go for a job interview, you want to make sure that you do research about the company, but you want to make sure that you're in a good company, then you're not in a crappy company, and then you're gonna be miserable the entire time while being in
Yeah.
help desk or IT support. So you want to make sure you do some research about the company. So that's very important, and also it's keep in mind that you're not gonna stay there forever. Like, you're not gonna be help desk for 40 years. It's not, that's not
Mm.
that's not how that works. It's just like you have to, and I'm gonna say this now because the people, I know people are gonna watch this. Like, you have to get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow as an IT person. So like, if you
Mm.
get situated and you get comfortable and you don't want to learn anything, and also you don't want to adapt to the environment, you're not going to be able to get out of help desk. If you want to learn and grow,
Mm.
you have to, that mindset needs to be in your brain. So it's like, I'm just going to do password reset all day, or I'm just going to do this all day. Like, you have to learn other stuff outside your 8 to 5 job. If you're working, like, you're doing help desk, but I'm saying outside of that, you have to learn other stuff, because If otherwise you're not going to be able to grow. You're just going to be stuck in that
Mm,
job for 2, 3 years, 4 years. It's just, it goes back to skills. It goes back to certifications. It goes back to your portfolio. How's your resume look like? And also it goes back to other stuff like LinkedIn, being on LinkedIn, networking. Also it's very involved. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you're trying to get out of the help desk or IT support, all those things are involved when you're trying to get out of that field. And I always tell everyone, like, if you're gonna do help desk IT support, a year or two is good enough. That's it. You don't have to go any more than that. It's just
mm.
good enough. And if the company pays for your certifications, even better. Take advantage of that. Let them pay for your certifications. So that's my advice. So.
That's some great advice, and it's really interesting that you say that, and great to understand that. I mean, you've helped so many people getting into IT support and getting those first roles and understanding IT support and getting jobs. You've helped so many people with your presence online and your YouTube channel and your content. And it's amazing to hear, the path that you kind of set out and recommend. And so there are people who, they get that first job in IT support and then they move on. But there are also people who, they get into IT support and they want to move on, but they get kind of stuck. They perhaps don't feel like they're ready to move on, or they have the skills to move on to those other roles which they actually prefer or are their target roles. So what do you say to those people? How do they get out of being stuck in those roles? And this is for people who truly want to move on to other areas. Maybe they want to move on to cyber security roles. They want to move on to cloud engineering roles, or whatever the case is. What sort of advice would you give to those people?
Yeah, that happened to me. So I was stuck in IT support for a while, and then I wanted to do cybersecurity. So the thing is with me is that I didn't know what I wanted to do in cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is big.
Mm.
Saying you want to get into cybersecurity is like saying I want to be a doctor. Like, what kind of doctor do you want to be? Right? There are different types of doctors. Right? So
Yep.
it's the same thing with cybersecurity. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, like, this is my advice to someone else: is I would recommend you look at Try Hack Me. Try Hack Me is something that I would recommend. Try playing around with different rooms. So I would do like the blue team sock room. If you're into blue team, I would do the red team room. Depending on what rooms to try out, just try all different rooms, and then figure out what's your cup of tea. Like, what do you like to do in cybersecurity before you dive into it? Because I don't want you getting a job and you hate it, right? So once you figure out what you want to do, and I'm just throwing sock as an example. Once you figure out what to do, then you know that obviously for cybersecurity jobs and for SOC, you're gonna have to have Security Plus. So I would work on the
Mm.
Security Plus certification while being in help desk, and a lot of like executives, they love the CYSA. So a lot of companies
Mm.
will look at the CYSA as a good certification to have. So I would recommend doing the blue team room for SOC, doing Security Plus, getting certified, and then building a home lab based on blue team stuff. So, like, if you're gonna go into a SOC analyst role, create your own little incident response. So what you could do is you could set up a lab environment, setting up Microsoft Sentinel, and then you could set up Microsoft Defender for XDR, and then you could actually set up Defender on a server, on a machine, on an endpoint, and you could just play around with that. And also you could actually set up Splunk if you want. All these tools, there's like a lot of third party tools you could set up, and you could
Yep.
set up your own portfolio and build a lab based on that, and add that experience on your resume. So anyone that's watching this, whatever you're trying to do, it doesn't have to be SOC. I just do that as an example. That's what I did. I just learned blue team
Yeah.
stuff. Then after that, I got a job interview because of that, because I learned the blue team stuff, and yeah, and that's literally what I did. And I just redid my whole resume. Instead of it being tailored to IT support, I tailored it to cybersecurity, and
Yes.
I started applying for jobs after that. That's what I did. So, which is my advice. So.
Amazing, amazing. And that is a great plan that you've set specifically for cybersecurity. And there are ways to do that for other roles, right? There's ways to do that for your whatever your target role is, whether maybe it's DevOps, maybe it's cloud specific roles, cloud security, or whatever the case is, network engineering. There are ways to sort of structure a way to make yourself well versed in that area. I mean, the way Kevin did it is, by going on to, TryHackMe and setting up the home lab and working on that stuff, and then creating a CV that looks like pretty much you are a cybersecurity engineer. You do this stuff, like, and that's what your CV represents. And for those people who are trying to switch from IT support into cybersecurity roles, when you are applying, your CV should look like someone who is working in cybersecurity through the labs that you've done, through the work that you've done outside of your job, or through the things that you've learned that are related to the role that you want to get into. Your CV should be structured in a way that looks like you're already doing that. And that's some great advice that you've given, Kevin. Really appreciate that.
Thanks.
Of course. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey online. Kevin, like, you've built a massive following and community online through sharing and putting out your knowledge and insight and just sharing your journey. How have you found that, and what inspired you to document that journey and share it with people on LinkedIn and YouTube and other places?
Yeah, for me, as when I was starting out in IT, I didn't have like that mentor. I didn't have anyone to help me out as much. So anyone that helped me out were the veterans, like to get the A+, but that's about it. I didn't have anyone guide me, or I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anything. So when I got my first job, and then when I was actually working in the field, my teacher is like, "Oh, you should make a video. You should make a YouTube channel and just see what happens." And I made my first video. I remember making my first video on Mac and Windows. I think it was El Capitan or something like that. It was a while back. And people really liked that video. And oh, okay. And I started just making random videos of me teaching like what I actually do in my job. And like, there was not a lot of content creators that do that. So I was like, all right, let me teach this. Let me show what I do in my job. I was a typical day of IT support person. And I just started teaching certain things, and people were like, wow, wait, what? This is free? And then people started watching my videos, and then became popular after that. So I started making videos because I didn't have a mentor, and I didn't have someone that's put stuff out there that's free, like relatively free. So I wanted to help other people. So like, oh, let me just make a video on this and see if people like it. And people were just commenting on it. Oh, this is a great video. And I was just sharing what I know, because I know there's a lot of gatekeepers in IT. So just sharing what I know. And also when I went online to ask for help when I first started IT, I had a lot of negativity. So it was like I had like people from Reddit being negative, a lot of negativity on online. So I just wanted to show people that you could teach IT. You could do things. You could show people how things are in IT. So I just wanted to make what's the reality of being IT. So I ended up just showing everything that I do in IT, which is why I started my IT channel. That's how I started it, and I just wanted to show people like, if I could do it, you could do it, because I come from a restaurant background, right? So like, as a guy, some random guy with working in fast food, working as a restaurant person, going into IT is like super random. Anyone could do it, right? So it's just that's why I started my YouTube channel.
Wow, yeah. Incredible. One thing I appreciate about you, Kevin, is your realness, but more so your vulnerability online. I think you share things. You share your journey in a way that even some great content creators wouldn't share. You share your mistakes. You share, I remember like when I don't know if it was during COVID or something that you lost your job, and how you shared that on LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, Kevin's actually sharing this stuff, like, and I remember how you were looking for another job and talking to your network saying I'm looking for a job. And I think for people, especially people with large followings, one thing that they wouldn't be likely to do is like, no, I have a large following, so I want to look a certain way to these people. I don't want to show that, I'm looking for a job. I'm supposed to be able to get a job easily or things like that. And that
Mm.
kind of, pride that comes with that. But I really appreciate how vulnerable you are online and how you just share it how it is. And I think that truth in your journey that you share with people is something that really draws people to you and really helps people to understand the realities of working in this space.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm like that because I remember, I remember I took the CompTIA A+. The A+ ain't no joke. People look at me like, oh, this exam is easy. It's not. I took it when you have no experience, right? And I took it and I
Mm.
share my failures, right? Like I actually failed the exam twice in a row, and I took it again and passed it, right?
Wow.
And people look at me like I'm crazy when I'm not. It's just like I failed it. Like literally, it's not an easy exam. So like when I tell people like I keep it real, right? I keep it 100% real. Like if you gotta like the exam ain't no joke, and if you have no experience, zero experience like me, because I had no experience back then, obviously you're gonna have a hard time passing the exam. So I like to share like my failures and my success. I don't mind that. Like I don't mind doing that because it's to show everyone that like I'm not a robot, right? I'm not Chat GPT. I'm not
Mm.
AI, right? I'm a human, right? So like you
Yep.
have to show people that you're human, right? When you fail, you fail, you fail. It's fine, man. If you fail, like it's totally fine. If you fail tomorrow, or like it goes back to mindset, right? It goes back to how you perceive everything, right?
Yep.
If you fail today, the only thing I ask you to do is try to pick yourself up and try again, right? Like it's more important to like how do you handle the situation when everything goes bad, right? What would you do? Like how do you handle it, right? So you got to have the right mindset, like how to handle those negative situations, which is why I talk about positive stuff and I talk about negative stuff because I get motivated through failures and through hardships. That's just how I
Mm.
am. And David Goggins style, right? I get
Mm-hmm.
motivated like from being put in awkward situations. So that's why I share my success stories and my failures. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing, Kevin.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you doing that even before knowing you, before being able to, speak to you here. And I'm so sure that others who follow you and follow your journey really, really appreciate that vulnerability as well. And I wanted to move on into my favorite part of the podcast. And this is the part where the guest shares an interesting story with the audience. And we've had some amazing stories recently. Some stories people share, their most memorable story that is bad, terrible, horror story. And, some of our horror stories, lots of people have been watching them on TikTok recently. But there are loads of horror stories that people have of times that haven't gone well. So you could share one of your stories with us, or perhaps you could share a good story when something went really well, or something went fantastic and you saved the day, or whatever it is. I think
Yeah.
Kevin, you've been in tech for so long that I might subject you to both. Give me one negative and one positive. Um,
Yeah, I have a lot of stories, but yeah, sure. I'll share a negative story. So I remember my last cybersecurity job. I got let go. They had layoffs in my job,
mm,
and I really couldn't do much. I literally woke up. I remember I woke up. I was trying to log into my computer, and I was able to log in, but then it was weird. Like it got like a random email, and then I joined the call, and then they're like, oh yeah, your whole department has been eliminated. So like they eliminated everyone in
wow.
our team, and I really couldn't do much. It was like out of my control, right? I was like, oh shoot, I'm screwed right now. So I remember being out of work for a couple of months, and then what you said, like I literally put I'm open for work, and I posted on LinkedIn that I was open for work, and I was out of work for a couple of months, and the amount of people that reached out to me for a referral was insane. Like a lot of people reached out to me to like give me a reference. Oh yeah, Kev, yeah, you go apply for my job. Go apply here. And even though I got the referrals, I still couldn't get a job. It was crazy. I was like, I could not find a job at
Wow.
all. So um, I ended up I ended up just like it was like going down. It was like going south. Everything was not working out for me. So it was like, all right, whatever. I can't really do much, right? And then I remember I got reached out by one of my buddies, one of my cybersecurity buddies, and he asked me if I wanted to go to Romania. It was super random. So he's like, "Oh, do you want to go to Romania and speak? You want to go to Romania to do a talk?" I'm like, I don't have a job right now. And he's like, "No, just go. Come on, just go to B-sides Romania. Let's do a talk." And I did a talk with him, and by the time I got out of that talk, I found a job. So I remember I was doing a talk at Romania, and I flew back. We flew back, and I already had a job lined up for me on Monday morning. So
Wow.
it's just like like I was struggling for a couple of months, not finding. I couldn't find a job, and people were like, how can Kev not find a job? He has a big following. The big following has nothing to do with it. Like, you can have all the
Mm,
followers in the world, but like, if no one's hiring, no one's hiring. Right? What are you gonna do, right? So
mm,
that was like my worst story, and I found a job, yeah, and that's it. And I got a job after that. But I remember
amazing.
speaking at a conference, and I got a job afterwards. But that was like my worst story, um, in IT.
Amazing, amazing. And
Yeah.
it, it's incredible to I almost feel like you explaining this story is something I know already. Like, I watched this in real time. Like, Kevin shared it. He was like, "Yeah, I lost my job." He shared this on LinkedIn. I was like, "Damn." And then he was like, "Open for work, looking for a role, giving us updates." I was like, "Wow, this is real time." Like, the story you just explained, I was able to follow it like
Mm.
from LinkedIn, which is really
Yeah.
cool. Really
Yeah.
cool. And no pressure. But if you have, well, I guess that was a good and bad story. You got there. But if you have another story to share with us, you can go
Mhm.
ahead and do that. Another one that you feel like you'd want to share with the audience.
Yeah, I remember. This is a story based in New York. I remember I had this one guy that so I got invited to go eat in New York, and we had like a get together, and it was super random because I went to a restaurant to go eat, and the guy knew who I was, so like he's like, "Oh, what's this? Isn't that guy from YouTube?" And then I went and I ate, and I got invited with a bunch of friends. I was like with like 10 people. It was a lot of people, and we were eating together. And that guy knew who I was, and he didn't say anything like throughout the whole food or whatever we were eating. And then finally he got up and he talked to me and he said, "Oh yeah, aren't you that KevTech guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So, and then that guy literally like he gave me a hug. It was so random. He gave me a hug. It felt a little
Wow.
awkward because he gave me a hug. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm not into hugs. I'm just saying that it's just like an awkward hug. And I'm like, "Why are you hugging me? This is weird, right?" And I said that in my head, and I didn't say that to him. Obviously, it's just like he hugged me, and he said, "Oh no, I got a job because of you. Because of
Wow.
you, I tripled my salary. I was working at Rite Aid, and I was working at Rite Aid, and then I watched some of your videos, and I took your resume template, and I tripled my salary because of you. So I had to I have to at least buy you a drink or buy you something, right? Because
Wow.
you're here, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, cool." And then we were just talking back and forth. We had like a conversation, and yeah, I think he got a job working for a financial company, and he was making really good money. And he's just super grateful. And I was just telling him I don't want anything. I'm not asking for anything. I don't want anything. I'm just here to eat dinner, and that's it. He's like, "No, no, I got you, I got you." I'm like, "All right, okay, that's fine." So yeah, like sometimes you'd be very surprised, like when you walk around. Not even New York. Like, I flew to several conference events. People know who you are. So you show up, and people are like, "Oh, hey, aren't you that?" Yeah, that's me. So yeah,
Wow.
sometimes you have things like that where um, people know who you are, and then you make an impact, right? And you don't know about
Mm,
it, and then people tell you about it, and then you're like, because sometimes when I make videos on YouTube or when I'm on LinkedIn or when I'm just putting out content out there, for me it's like, am I helping someone or am I not helping someone, right? So you think about it,
mm,
right? It's like me, it's like I don't know if I'm helping someone. So like, so that's why like when people tell me, "Oh yeah, you help me, you're helping me with this, I appreciate you, Kevin." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm actually doing something right," right? And so it's just like those things are important. So like like for him to tell me that, I definitely appreciated that. So
Amazing, amazing. And it's so true. I mean, like very recently, someone came up to me, shout out to her. She knows who she is. And said, yeah, I've been watching your podcast. Really, really interesting. Really, really great. And this was at a tech conference as well. And I was like, wow, no one's ever like come up and said, I watched your podcast before. It's never happened before. And so, and at that conference, it happened twice. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, people actually watch this. People are actually interested in this. People are actually learning something from this. A lot of the time when you put out content online, you see 1,000 followers and you're like, and it looks it's just numbers. Like,
yeah.
But each of those 1,000 is a person who clicked and watched for, I think on YouTube it's at least 30 seconds for it to count as a view. So someone watched you for 30 seconds and each of that 1,000 is one person. But in your head, you don't actually like realize what that is. Like, but when you see someone say, oh, you really helped me with this, or someone messages you and says, this was so great, thank you so much, or someone leaves a comment saying, wow, this had such a great impact, I was able to, pass a certification because of this, or I was able to get a job because of this. You really understand what this actually means to some people and how what you do helps people. And Kevin, you've been doing this for so long. Because I've been watching you on YouTube for so long, and I've seen, the way that your content has impacted people, especially in the comment sections, and there's a reason that you have the following you have. It's not just it's there because you've consistently showed up helping people in a way that they need with IT support and in other areas as well. And so when people come up to you and that guy came up to you, gave you a hug, it's really a sign of so many other people who, if you saw them face to face, they probably give you a hug as well. Because you've been helping a lot of people for a long time. And I was even talking to a previous guest. He's like, yeah, what other guests are you having on here? I was like, oh yeah, I'm having a call with Kevin. So he's like, Kevin, like Kevin, like, I was like, yeah. He's gonna come on the podcast and we're gonna have a chat. And he was like, wow, no, that guy he's done a lot. He's done a lot and done a lot to help people. So in case you were wondering, you are helping people and the impact is incredible right now. And I know that you'll continue to do that, which is amazing, man. So to end off this podcast, I want to just give you the opportunity to shout anything out. Where can people find you? What are your platforms and anything else you want to shout out? Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys could find me on Twitter as KevTech IT Support. I'm on Instagram as KevTech IT Support as well. If you want to know more about IT support or Helpdesk or like free content, like things to help you out if you're brand new to IT, I recommend you go to, again, KevTech IT Support. KevTechITsupport.com is my website. So there's a lot of free resources in there. There's my calendars in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. So KevTechITsupport.com would be the website I would definitely recommend you guys go to, because I have resources there that are free. Some are paid. Like it depends what you're trying to do. I have a section there for veterans. If you're a veteran and you want like free resources as a veteran, that website, KevTechITsupport.com, has free resources for veterans trying to get into IT and cybersecurity. And I have other stuff in there as well, like people that I'm partnered with, because I'm partners with CompTIA and a bunch of other companies. So I definitely recommend you look at that. As far as looking me up, you can find me as Kevin Apollinario, first and last name. If you put my first and last name, I actually show up on Udemy because I have a Udemy course. And that's it for me. Those are like socials. I want that's it.
Amazing. Kevin, I just want to say another massive thank you for joining us on Tech Certified Podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Amazing. And to the audience, we're back every week. So tune in every Monday. Don't miss an episode. So much more to come. Peace.
Bye.